What's going on, guys? It's the Money Talk Show with Dane, where we talk about topics relating to money, specifically real estate, crypto, and entrepreneurship here. So we are pumped to have you guys this morning. If those are topics that you're interested in, make sure to smash the like, subscribe to the channel. We're doing our best to be the bridge between people in real estate and entrepreneurship and crypto. We've been able to set ourselves financially free through crypto, and found it's infinitely easier to do it in crypto as compared to a vehicle like real estate. And so we are doing our best to help everybody understand the opportunity that we have, which we feel like is the biggest over the next couple of years via crypto. So pumped to have you guys along. We have an excellent guest on the show today. We'll get into some cool things. In fact, it's a topic that Corey and I both know less about, and so it'll be fun to jump into that. But before we go there, Corey, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, well, it's good morning, Hexicans. Love being here today. This beautiful Monday morning here in Phoenix, Arizona. The weather's absolutely gorgeous, and it's super pumped to be here with you guys on this journey to wealth building through crypto. And I feel like we are in the right time, right place, and I couldn't be any more excited, right, with the Bitcoin having upon us, and with the just the economy, and it's completely getting wrecked. We got the FMLC meeting coming up here in a couple of days. I'm excited to see what's going to happen after that, whether we have massive volatility to the upside or downside. I think it's going to be fun. But man, there's not a better time and place I'd rather be. The opportunities like no other, like right now with Pulse Chain on the horizon. And that's going to bring us to our guest, who is actually building something really cool. A lot of you guys who are familiar with the Ethereum blockchain know there's a what's called the ENS domain that you can create for yourself on the Ethereum blockchain. And like Dane has said a little bit earlier, me and him don't know a lot about this, which is why we're having him on the show, because I never got an ENS domain, and I would love to know why would one want this. But I know it was pretty explosive on the Ethereum chain. I know people were selling their ENS names, I mean, for multiple thousands of dollars. And they're like almost like NFTs, if I'm not mistaken, in some way. And so we're going to be educating ourselves today on this show. It's going to be super exciting. I'll be taking a lot of notes. But we have Pulse Domains, which is going to be like the ENS domain on our show today. He'll be creating the PNS, if you will, for the Pulse Chain ecosystem. So welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on our show today and educating us a little bit today.
Well, hello and good morning, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Let's jump into. So tell us a little bit about your background, how you ended up in crypto, and how you ended up in the Pulse Chain ecosystem. Let's start there.
Oh yeah. So I think my first encounter with crypto was due to some substance that I was planning to buy online that happened in 2014. 2015, and then I had
I love it.
Yeah, no, that was the real reason. And then I still had a couple of BTC left, and I noticed after a week that it dropped by like 5%, and I was totally new to the crypto market. I'm like, oh great, now all of the BTC that I bought is going to zero. And what I decided to do then is to dump it all for another coin called ETH, because ETH at that time was like, I think $1 or $2. So I dumped everything into ETH, and pretty much for 1.5 years, totally forgot about all of it. Didn't really pay attention to the entire space. And then 2016, 2017, I heard more and more about the news, about crypto in the news, and logged in back into my, I think it was GN, was like a company that Coinbase owned before. That was the exchange that I had. I think GDAX. Yeah, that was GDAX before. Yeah, Coinbase acquired that. So I logged into my GDAX account, and I'm like, oh, great. It increased quite a bit. So that's when I got involved a little bit more in crypto. Have also been with Hex on day one, and can actually prove that on chain that I was part of the day one adoption amplifier initiative. Yeah, it's and so kind of like my professional background, I've been building products now for roughly 7 years. built a couple of businesses. The majority of failed, some of them succeeded, and just kind of like love the process of building and creating products. That's kind of like my happy place. That's when I feel engaged, when I'm building stuff. And with Pulse Domains, our initiative was really to support the Pulse chain ecosystem and bring adoption. And I know that a lot of Pulsicans and Hexicans and Pulse Exicans are not necessarily familiar with ENS or PNS in our instance, but my point of view was, how can we support a successful launch on of a layer 1 blockchain, and what are kind of like the standard tools that each L1 is using? And if we look around, each L1 has products that usually have product market fit from day one or within the first couple of months. This includes the DEXs, which we have. This includes the lending protocols, which we have. This includes also the privacy tools, which we have, and some of them are also launching on Pulse chain. This also includes stable coins. And then, funny enough, this actually also includes naming providers. And so in this case, we decided to be the naming provider for Pulse chain and support that part, and bring also more adoption through that angle to Pulse chain.
Very cool. So let's go back. I like to revisit this question for all the early Hex people, because there's so much, like, Richard is such a polarizing character, and we've all seen the FUD. If you've been around at all, for any amount of time, we've all seen the FUD. So what led you to feel good enough to make an early bet on Richard and Hex? I'm really curious about that.
I mean, quite frankly, especially anyone participating in the first, 1 or 2 months, it seemed like a good choice, and I personally was confident, but I wasn't like, predicting it's going to do 10,000x, let me go in, and so on. And then also the entire Hex community, and including me, it took us 3, 4, 5, 6 months to fully understand the staking mechanism and how it works. A lot of individuals ended their stakes early before big payday. I was also part of it that ended my stakes because it just made sense to end them and restake again. But it took a while to really, wrap your head around. But when it comes to kind of like Richard Hart, I discovered him, I think it was via Roger Ver interview, I think during that time. And one of the things that I noticed right away, and I usually work with a lot of engineers and a lot of really, really smart people, and they can be assholes, but they're right in so many instances, right? And for me, it's like, if you're right, doesn't matter how you say it and all of that. It's all about what you say it, and I totally respect that. And Richard was one of the guys, and even at that point was really right of predicting the top and the bottom of BTC. And I wish I would have been just like all in and then fully trusting him, right? And it's like, and one thing that I learned, it's like every time, and it sounds cultish, it's like every time I try to do my own thing and kind of like go against Richard in a way, you kind of like learn your errors along the way. Yeah,
that's interesting. And so you're a good person to speak on this. There's people that are saying Pulse chain is vaporware and it'll never launch. After having the experience that you've had with Richard and his team thus far, do you have any doubts about Pulse chain?
Zero. Of it coming out, zero. It's a no-brainer. I'm in well, zero. I've talked with some individuals involved there, and I also know what it takes, and also Richard pivoting from waiting for ETH 2.0 coming out from a product perspective just makes a lot of sense, even if it means that you have to wait a year, because now what Richard is effectively doing is basically saying, you know what, we have a bunch of, we have a whole foundations with hundreds of developers building this new version, and we can just piggyback off of them when it comes to updates and upgrades. And we can essentially put our touch on top of that, making it faster and cheaper and so on. But we essentially got a ton of free work, put on our laps and
ongoing.
And ongoing. And I think every smart product person would also go that route. I mean, it's literally a no-brainer doing that. And yes, that's one of the reasons why we're 1 year delayed. but long term, it makes so much more sense.
Yeah, it's funny how I think one of the smartest moves he could have done throughout this whole pulse chain journey, if you will, in the last year and a half. That was the smartest move he could have made, and it's the most FUD that he's getting towards for making that decision, right? And I just think it's such a smart business decision.
Yep.
Why would you not want to piggyback on the biggest development of an L1 chain? I mean, and we are going to be the only ones. Now I know it'll probably change down the road, but in the beginning here, we'll be the only ones who will be a fork of ETH 2.0.
Yep. Yeah. And then also throughout the time, Richard had, and that I don't know. This is something that I'm just speculating on. Richard had, in this case, more time to find kick-ass developers. And I know Richard talked about, having 10x developers. And this does not mean developers that produce 10x of the output. It essentially means individuals that just operating on a totally different dimension and, can deliver more beautiful code or understand more complex manners much faster. And I work in tech, and that's definitely a thing. And I think on kind of like the human resource side, Richard just had more time to find the best developers in this space, and it seems like based on how he indirectly talks about it, that he has a good team of really good developers. Just for us, I built a ton of Web 2 products, like software products, and it really takes a while to find really good developers that you can work on an ongoing basis and so on. For us, it took me personally 22 different developers to find the 10x developer for us. Web3 in this instance was like the first time building in Web3, but there are a lot of similarities on that. But finding really, really good developers takes some time, and I'm pretty confident Richard has them. Based on the progress that we're seeing with Pulse X and with Pulse X pretty much, and then hopefully with Pulse Chain in this case.
I think that's a good point. I built, now this isn't crypto level stuff, but I built a text messaging platform that we use in our real estate business, and that was a monster to that's a fairly simple application, and finding developers for that was, in my experience.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, right? Like a good developer will say, okay, this takes me 2 months. Let's draw everything out. Let's do, let's map it out. How does it work? A 10x developer will basically say, yeah, totally get it. Totally get user experience. Let me do it in 5 days and get it up in 5 days pretty much. No, really. It's like, this kind of like gives you an idea of like, what a 10x developer is versus like a regular developer, and there are definitely levels to that.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So you have the background. I'm really curious, what does your instinct say? How long before we see V3, and do you think Pulse Chain launches this year?
Yeah, so one of the latest updates was yesterday in regards to AMM bot. That's one of the last changes that they usually have to do. So they do the AMM bot, then Pulse X, in other words, providing all of the liquidity or the pairing, which also will be interesting to see what the ratios will be set, if they will be set. And then ultimately updating the UIs with the front ends with the address. So in this case, Pulse X and the Block Explorer and so on. So I think we're 98% there. So all of it's like once the AMM task is done, updating all of the front end UIs is quite simple. I assume they'll do a couple of tests on like figuring out how to, provide liquidity across all pairs automatically and so on. But yeah, we're almost there. Roughly 2 more weeks, I guess.
I was going to say, would you want to say 2 more weeks and actually be?
Yeah, I mean, time-wise, if you really want to rush it, I guess 1 week. If you really want to take your time, double check it. And
my opinion, there's no rush right now. with
Yeah,
the
so
with the world, the way the state of the economy is, and what's going on all around us. And we have plenty of time, and the Bitcoin halvings next year, and everyone's such in a hurry.
yeah, I think it will take probably 2 or 3 more weeks, because if they choose to update the AMM bot code, because
Yeah, right.
since they last run the AMM bot, that was what, a year ago. DEX addresses and DEX liquidity providers addresses have changed, so you kind of like need to figure out, okay, how do we access all of the latest pools on V2, on V3? In this case, there were some hiccups. Are there any additional platforms that they want to run the AMM bot on? So there are a couple of changes on what actually happened on the blockchain since a year ago in this case. Yeah. So they have to refresh the AMM bot code and making sure they include additional outliers in that case.
Yep.
Interesting. So if everything goes, let's say that let's say V3 goes well, there's not any huge hiccups, everything goes pretty well according to plan. When would you anticipate mainnet?
Oh, I'd say we'll probably, hard to say, but I would probably say we will be running for maybe 6 to 8 weeks on V3 testnet before mainnet, and that can even be longer depending on because there's one additional update on ETH 2.0 which allows you to unstake your coins. So Shanghai. I think that will play a role in the updates for Pulse Chain. So, I mean, like on our end, we've been pretty much, waiting. We've been building on additional tools for the community while we're waiting for Pulse Chain. For me, it's ready whenever it's ready. So there's no necessarily a rush, even though people don't like to hear that. But, I'm pretty confident we'll be done this year. Let's say 3, 4, 5 months will totally be fine. Launching at the right timing just makes our bags bigger. So it's all of it is positive, to be honest. So
Agreed. I agree 100%. Let's circle back with the liquidity and NAM bots, because you probably understand this on a deeper level. Would you say that so that he's doing the V3 liquidity now too, right? Isn't that correct? Before it was just V2. I remember that. Is he adding in V3 now? Is that correct?
My understanding is that they found a way on V3, and to be honest, I looked at all of the AMM bot situation a year ago into like exactly how they did it and so on. Now a year has passed and I have to revisit all of it again because there's so many small details that you just totally forget. But yeah, so it will be V2, V3, and then also including a couple of additional dexes that they're going after.
Yeah, one of my strategies pre-bridge is to find an ERC20 that has a deep liquidity pool on V2 to hold through the fork. So
got it. And then setting a one-sided limit order or LP position.
Just using those PRC20 pre-bridge to swap into Pulse or Pulse X or P Hex or whatever have you, it's on sale. Finding one that's the whole community's not chasing, obviously. That's a deep pool on V2. This will be bring to my next question. What kind of what kind of advancement or notice do you think RH will give us before mainnet? Because obviously we have our validators that we're all going to switch over. I'll be validating on Pulse Chain. I'm super excited for that. I've got Gamma. I don't know if you know who Gamma. I know you know Gamma DevOps. He's my teacher in this validator journey. But what do you think as far as notification for mainnet that RH would have to give us? Because that would be a good, because that's when I'd want to buy my ERC20 shitcoin, if you will, to hold through the fork, and then sell the Ethereum side when the fork happens and have my PRC20s to swap. But what do you think? What kind of notice do you think we'll have?
Yeah, I think Richard Shard's dev team will have a couple of nodes running. I personally, and this is again personally, don't believe that they will essentially share the RPC settings with all of the node providers that volunteer and want to run their own nodes. I don't think this will happen on day one. So the team will probably start running a couple of nodes, then announce the date. This could be, he might give us a 2-day warning, or maybe a 1-day warning, or a week status of warning. And then the second the RPC settings are being shared, or I guess they're already shared, but the second the RPC settings go online, that's when everything starts. That's when the ratio starts. That's when the node operators can, start running their nodes, and that's essentially where the craziness and the excitement starts.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. So you think we might get anywhere as long as a week, or anyone as short as a day? You don't think you don't have anything in between there? You think it's between a day and a week? It's hard to.
I think it will be. I think we'll see it. We'll see it similar to a V3 testnet. It's like, okay, we're a couple things away. We're going through those last stages, and then it will be like, okay, we're ready in 2 days roughly, or it will be like hints, and then it will be up. But I don't think it will be
ideally, when you're playing the ERC20, DGen game, you don't want to be holding that ERC20 on the Ethereum side too long, because then your exposure to the marketplace is, it's volatile, right? So
yeah, but then also at the same time, the snapshot, or the snapshot of the blockchain that they take does not necessarily mean that one is fully fresh. For instance, they could let's say just to give you an example with V3 could be launching today, and the snapshot of all of the token balances and smart contracts could be like 2 or 3 months old.
But for mainnet, he's confirmed that the fork will be the time that the coins will be copied, or snapshot, if you will. That it was going to happen at the same time the fork happens. So
yes, but I don't think that will be exactly the date on when they will launch.
I can see that,
because then
get it going before they give the RPC settings to the public. Yeah. Good point.
I think there will be a 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 week delay, depending on how they're making it, because that also means a lot of people will be start gaming that, right? We'll most likely see a run up to with the hex price, with the Hedron price, and all of the.
You see, I want to game it, but I don't want to game it with the hex. Like I love my hex. I want to game it with some other ERC20 shitcoin that has a deep liquidity pool on V2. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, well, there are two things, right? It's like they can have deep liquidity on V2 and V3. On Pulse X, it is up to Richard Hart's team to provide the liquidity and also decide how deep it should be. So for instance, let's say on V2 and V3 we have 10,000 coins. Just giving an example. Does that also mean Richard will be providing, Richard's team or some magical person, will they provide liquidity across all tokens all at once, and basically with the entirety numbers of tokens that they have access to? You know what I mean? So for instance, if you're into I don't know, SHIB token, or like there's one Dogecoin. No, is it Doge? I think it's SHIB. I think the SHIB community is big on Pulse Chain, I believe.
They are. So, they've already admitted to coming over to the Pulse Chain.
Yeah.
Although they're launching their own blockchain this year too.
Yeah. I heard about that too. So for instance, in theory, Richard does because there will be 2 days of ratio trading, right? And then during 2 days, my idea or my assessment is there will be liquidity across all pairs. But do you need essentially deep liquidity across all pairs? Not necessarily, because at the very beginning, you just, from a tax perspective, right? If one looks from a tax perspective, you could say, well, I received them at $0 and they weren't not worth anything. But were they tradable? And if something has no liquidity, the answer is not. So, and then even if you have like some, super random coin, you need to have at least a little bit liquidity. So what I'm trying to say is like there will be probably liquidity across all tokens. The question is, how deep will it be? They might decide to, set 10% of liquidity across or maybe like 30 or 40% liquidity across the top 20 or 30 tokens, and then 10% liquidity across the remainder, and then scale it in after weeks or months and so on. That could be one. And again, this is all speculation. This is all like us trying to figure out what they're going to do. We really don't know. And I think even if we know exactly what they're doing with V3, that does not mean they will do the same thing on mainnet.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. We appreciate the
I love the speculation. I've been doing that for
it's fun.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into your guys' project.
Right.
Let's hear more about Pulse Domain. So talk us through the general thesis behind it and how people can participate. Frank is itchy here. What's the link where people can get their domain for Pulse Domains?
Yeah, I can. Let me see if you guys want. I can also share my screen to give you guys.
Please.
Yeah, please do. That'd be great.
See,
and educate us all about it. Why did this happen on Ethereum? Why is there an ENS? Why will it be a PNS now? From my understanding, this is a Web3 domain now.
Exactly. So I think a lot of individuals are familiar with DNS, right? Which is the domain naming service. So here we're talking about the .coms, .nets, .ios, and so on. If we did not have those, we would have just typed in IP addresses to access websites. So in this case, I want to access Amazon.com. Back in the day, it would have been just like typing in an IP address. In other words, 192.1.8.4. And that's when the DNS system was born, where they said, you know what, no one really can memorize all of those IP addresses. Why don't we have a domain name system called DNS, where we essentially have Amazon.com, where people can access that, right? And we basically see the same dynamics happening in Web3, where we're basically saying, hey, DNS, this entire system, the .coms, the .nets, and .ios, they're actually a very centralized system. They're owned by, they are essentially governed by one entity called ICANN, and ICANN can decide to shut your website down, to revoke access to your domain name, and so on. However, in Web3, ENS was leading the way of developing a similar system. However, that system is fully trustless, and people cannot revoke or take away your domain name, right? So, and that's when ENS, the Ethereum naming system, got born. And what we are doing, we're basically a fork of ENS. We are the beneficiary, similar to Pulse Chain, of ETH 2.0, of all of the work they're doing, and Richard improving upon that. And we're pretty much doing the same. We're taking the ENS code that has audited multiple times, that has been battle tested, that has also shown product market fit, and we are improving upon that and iterating upon that with better UI experiences and additional features, right? So when it comes to domain naming systems, ENS and as well as PNS. PNS stands for Pulse Chain Naming System, or PNS, however you want to pronounce it. So we are pretty much.
Said it. I've been thinking it the whole time.
Oh, believe me, I've heard a lot of jokes already about that. And it's, so we are pretty much providing a name service on Pulse Chain. In other words, if you buy, let's say, hello.pls or richard.pls or fancyname.pls or hex.pls, that domain name is fully yours, cannot be revoked, cannot be taken away. And you, in this case, as a domain name owner, have a couple of functionalities that you can start using with. So, and I'll walk through some of the functionalities so you understand what's worth it. And then we can also see how it's basically how Web3 domain names such as us or ENS, how are they currently being used?
Perfect.
It seems like a lot to chew through, but we'll get through it.
It is.
This is great. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to, if we just understand the functionalities of the PNS, why would one want one?
Mm-hmm.
What can you do with it besides maybe hosting a website? Obviously, there's got to be other use cases. I've heard of people that you can use it for like a wallet address, and you can send money to an ENS or a PNS.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll go one by one, right? So number one is, actually, let's go over here. So number one is your domain name is fully yours. It is decentralized, cannot be taken down. Can
Which is cool. That is
and
so
it
cool.
and it can also not be taken down by us. We can never revoke it. The second you mint your domain name, we cannot do anything. Even if you start doing funky stuff with it, we just cannot do anything. It's fully decentralized and trustless. And then additionally, with your name, you can also add Web 2 and Web 3 properties to it. So, for instance, I can connect my IG account to it on chain. I can also connect my Bitcoin address on chain, my Reddit, and so on, and YouTube, and so on chain if I choose to. One example in this case will be, let's say, Richard. Richard has a ton of impostures where a lot of people say, hey, coming up with a new Instagram name for Richard and then essentially imposturing him. In Richard's case, and this is also for anyone that is an online identity or even like a Web 2 or Web 3 project, here you can say, you know what? If people type in richard.pls, all of the information on that is fully verified. My stuff, in other words, if you see an Instagram account that is fully my stuff, because I hold the keys to that particular name that is in this case in my wallet address, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could direct people to your, but I mean theoretically you could still have, I mean it's a really cool idea. Theoretically you could still have a like richardhart.pls, Richard Hart with 2 E's.pls, Richard, like I guess theoretically you could try to
there's still the idea of spoofing or change, like especially if you include 2 E's and so on in it. But the second you decided on one name, so for instance, hex.pls, that one will be, minted and given out to Richard, and all permutations of hex will be given out to their team, so that to reduce that. But if they choose to modify hex.pls, all of the information is directly coming from the entity that modified it.
That's cool.
If people in this case include 2 X's and 3 X's or 4 X's, then it's like, yep, these are owned by different addresses. I would not trust them, but you will be essentially having, if someone buys hex.pls and it happened to be, that entity that owns hex, all of the information there is truly theirs and truly verified. That's kind of like
That's
one
cool.
thing. And which kind of also goes along the lines of like your Web3 identity. All of the information that is linked to that account are truly yours and set by you. So that's kind of like point one. Point two is, with the Pulse Chain ecosystem evolving, and this will essentially happen once Pulse Chain launches, we'll be integrating with all dApps, wallet providers, on Pulse Chain first, and then beyond that, we'll go into other applications and other chains. So you could essentially, if I want to, send Corey million PLS tokens, I could essentially, if Corey has Corey.pls, please, if Corey has Corey.pls, I could essentially, send Corey directly a million coins by just typing Corey.pls into, in this case, whatever wallet
instead
I'm
of
using.
the long public address
Instead of the long public address.
Yeah.
I think we have like a good visual here. So, instead of this becomes your address, right?
Oh, that's cool.
And
does it provide any what's the word, privacy in regards to, like I want to send Corey PLS, I go to Corey.pls and I send it there. Am I also able to see his public address? Does it provide any privacy in that respect?
So one of the things that we want to educate individuals on, and we're slowly starting to bring more and more educational material on it, is regarding privacy, right? So for instance, if you have the domain name 2222.5.pls, no one knows who you are, right? So it's like, it's similar, it's like, it's not connected to your online address, but if you have crypto millionaire with Corey.pls, there might be a chance it's Corey, but it might be also someone else that registered it, right? But ultimately, what we want to do is like any name that you decide on, if it goes along with your, internet personality or your offline personality, be conscious of that can be seen online, right? So something that we have a lot that happened with .eth domain names. People weren't really aware that, others can look up their .eth domain name and therefore also identify their address, if that makes sense, right? So and something that we're doing here, it's like, hey, be aware of that. If you're buying, your personal name or a name that is associated with your internet identity, be aware that that can be publicly seen. And if you want to mitigate that, and if you want to just create a clean wallet, you can do so by creating a clean wallet, depositing a little bit of PLS tokens from an exchange or from a privacy protocol, given it is allowed in your jurisdiction, into that wallet, and then from there you can do whatever you want, right?
So it almost makes sense to have a few in that respect.
Yep. So I always practice to anyone that I onboard and so on. It's like, have multiple wallets with multiple purposes. They're all free. It's like creating a new additional wallet. It's free for you. Make sure you segregate them. Maybe by exchange, maybe by purpose, maybe by the way you save the seeds and so on. So have multiple wallets. Try not to intermingle them and so on.
I would only have this as a hot wallet where I'd have money coming in and out, and I wouldn't keep long-term funds in it.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that around this, especially for content creators, here you can. And this goes into our second profile, into our second point, and I'll tie it back into it. Here, we're also allowing a front end that pulls in all of the information that you put on the blockchain. So for instance, Corey set up his profile with all of his links, maybe with his NFT collection and so on. He can essentially go to pls.fyi, and this is kind of like our second site, and we have multiple services around that. Let's pretend this is Corey. So Corey.pls.fyi. This is his profile. This is Richard's profile. And just to be clear, this is not real Richard. This is just like a demo that we created. So all of this information is, in this case, fully done by the owner of Richard.pls. All of his social links, the NFT Connect collection that comes soon, and then also addresses. But then also, just to kind of like really highlight that, for any content creator, they have also a big fat tip button where others can support their favorite content creator. Instead of going through YouTube or Twitch, where they take up to 50% of, I think 50 or 25% of all of your earnings. Here, content creators, and we know we have so many content creators in Hex and Pulse chain that essentially are doing just free work. Here they have a new way of just getting a little bit of a tip as a small thank you, without being
This solves a big problem in the content creator world, because I know Randy Hilarski. I watch him every single night, and he's complained since the beginning of his YouTube journey that he cannot get paid, super chats via YouTube because he's in Panama. And just the way his address is, they try to verify him. He can't get verified, and it's just been a pain in the ass for him. But this would be like, he could set this up and immediately receive super chats, if you will. Like if somebody wants a super chat, they can just do it right through the PNS, which is really cool.
Exactly.
So and then that's a problem.
And then he can also have his Patreon and all of the other links associated with it. So if he gets shut down on one platform or another, as long as people know about his PLS address, all of the information is verified on chain and can be, in that case, accessed regardless wherever he's being shut down or not.
So can you does the send tip work on the demo page here?
It should be. Let me see. Oops.
So I'm trying to think through. So I wouldn't open my MetaMask because I've got to paste in a wallet address there when I click the send. I want to send to somebody else. I've got to paste in a wallet address. Would someone log into their profile here with the .pls naming convention, and that's where you could go and send to a Richard.pls, for instance?
Yeah. So for instance, I can, type in one PLS in this case, send the tip, as long as my MetaMask works. I'm not sure if you guys see that. But here in this case, I have the MetaMask browser extension pop up, one PLS. I can confirm that. This thing starts to spin. and then the transaction should happen in the next couple of
Oh
seconds.
yeah, so it'll just integrate with MetaMask.
Yep.
Cool. I like it. Very cool.
Yep, exactly. And then let me see what else. Here we go. And then also, lastly, we have also the ability to connect your name to an IPFS website. For individuals that are not known, that don't know IPFS, so Amazon or Google Cloud, they're essentially storage providers where your website, your entire website, is stored on AWS or Google or Azure from Microsoft. And then IPFS is a totally new protocol in Web3 land where your website can be hosted on multiple computers and multiple nodes, like we try to mimic here, right? And usually the address to your IPFS site is super long, way longer than an IP address, and it's really complicated. And in order to simplify it, you could essentially connect your IPFS website to your Pulse domains profile. So for instance, let's go into here. So we have a thing called pls.to, and I believe we have, here we go. So hello world. So this particular website was like set up by us. And here, this is a blog that is fully hosted, same experience. It's quickly, it's quite fast. And this blog is fully hosted on multiple nodes, cannot be shut down, cannot be taken down, and is, in this case, hosted on IPFS, but is now accessible via our, name rather than a long string of characters that don't make necessarily much sense. So now you could essentially, have your blog, you can have your, like your Pulse X front end if you want to. You can also host a Pulse X front end on IPFS, which in this case, if Amazon or Microsoft ever want to shut you down, the second you host it on IPFS, your front end will always be alive.
Like freaking cool.
And these are functionalities that, I mean, like these are all functionalities that are being used on Ethereum. We see a lot of adoption there when it comes to like IPFS, when it comes to, this actually is something that we developed ourselves that is kind of like slightly better and different from what the folks do on ENS. But going back to like, what are the use cases? One of the biggest use cases, and perhaps one of the elephants in the room of why ENS was so successful is speculation.
I saw.
In other words, it's like there are tons of use cases, there are tons of like bells and features and so on. What we've seen historically, a lot of people use them for that, but then also a lot of people use them for speculation. Like what was it? Last week I looked into into the highest sold ENS name, and that was sold for 2.5 million X, like I think a year ago or so.
Jeez. What was the name? Do you remember?
It wasn't really a good name either. Think about it.
If you guys didn't give Hex.Pulse to Richard, which I know you guys are, which is the right thing to do. But imagine if you didn't do that and someone went and grabbed that real quick and then owned it. Like they could sell that. Oh my God, it would go for millions. I bet. Especially the Pulse launches.
Yeah, I mean, there will be, any domain names associated with Richard or Pulse Chain or Hex and so on will be whitelisted, minted, and given away to their team. And this is also the case, and here we can maybe go into the mainnet name claim. So one of the initiatives.
Walk us through how we claim our name and how we do this. I remember I came in here, played with it. This was a while ago when you first launched, and I got a little bit of. I didn't understand it, if you will.
Talk us through too, like gaming the system. Immediately, my DGen brain goes to, what could I buy to go and flip to somebody else that would like the naming convention that I could scoop up before them?
Right.
So, I mean, when it comes to DGen and speculation and all of that, there are lists of domain names out there that sold for a high price, that people can look up, and I assume people will do the same. For us, what we will be doing, we will be whitelisting the top 3,000 domain names based on brand and Alexa ranking, and we will be whitelisting them and selling them over 6 or 9 or 12 months, so that the rightful
owners.
The rightful owners, if they didn't
Cool.
participate in this thing, which is still, PulseChain is not out, not many people know about this, but at least the rightful owners have the ability to purchase, or actually to bid on their own name over time. However, here we're talking about 3,000 domain names, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 max. Everything else is free for all, pretty much.
Okay.
Right.
Cool.
So, and then in addition to ensure that everyone gets their domain name that is, someone in the PulseChain or Hex or crypto, or just like, known in the crypto, in the Twitter sphere, we came up with a couple of criteria. So what we're doing here is you can claim your Web3 username for free. And this will be only applying for PulseChain mainnet. So once PulseChain mainnet launches, we will be sending you your domain name for free, given you qualify for any of those. So if you have minimum of 5,000 followers on Twitter, and again, this is just like a metric that we decided on. It's like, okay, if you have,
I'm halfway there.
There are some additional criteria that will qualify you. But let's say if you have, 200 followers, what's the chance of you being cyber squatted? Probably not really high. And cyber squatting means basically other people buying your domain name in order to sell it to you at a higher price, right? So it's like we're trying to figure out, like, what's the risk? If you're really well known, there's potentially a risk that other people buy that domain name to sell it to you at a higher price. If you have 2 followers and you have an interesting name, what's the chance of anyone cyber squatting that one? Probably pretty low. So that was kind of like our thinking. And with this 5,000 follower metric, it's pretty much an arbitrary metric that we came up with. And that, again, if you only qualify for this one, we still encourage you to submit the name claim. And we will essentially do the count once PulseChain is live or close to PulseChain coming live. That's where we start evaluating all of the criteria. All right. So this is just only the 5,000 followers. If you don't qualify for that, but you qualify for something else, in other words, if you are a crypto streamer or just streamer on YouTube, Twitch, or Rumble, that is noteworthy, you qualify for that. If you're a known figure in the Richard Hart ecosystem, in other words, if you participated in the Telegram chats, if you giving free advice, nonstop, and you're known, or if you're in Twitter Spaces and you're known, people know who you are, and so on, you get it for free. If you are a builder, if you're building on PulseChain, and you have a project, you get your domain name for free. Let's say Mintra, Mintra.pls, the Mintra team gets that one for sure. Internet Money Wallet, they're getting that. Be it Pixel Park, or all of those projects get their domain name for free. And again, it's not necessarily about giving away free stuff or not free stuff. It's more about ensuring that the rightful owners get their domain name. And then they can essentially, use it either as a company profile, as a personal profile, or also issue subdomains, which also is like a feature that is not really known. So yeah. So yeah, if you qualify for any of those, one of the things is just to fill out this particular form, just your Twitter URL, your claimable name, your website or GitHub repo if you have one, and then any notes or questions.
What if we don't have a website?
But you have a Twitter profile that you qualify for?
We could. No. Well, I only have 2,500 followers on my Twitter.
Well, but you're a streamer.
But so you're a streamer. Yeah. You qualify for all of the below, pretty much. Okay. You qualify for those, right? It's like any of those. You don't necessarily need to qualify for all. As long as you qualify for one of those, you're good to go.
So put my Twitter handle in there, put my name, and then scroll back down again.
And then press submit name claim. Yeah.
I don't need to put my domain name.
You could put your YouTube channel there.
Okay. There. So I'll put the YouTube, Twitter, YouTube, my name that I want, notes, and submit name offer. Now, can I do like me and Dane's group is called DeFi Crypto Alliance? Can I like do one for that, and then can I do one for Corey Geary?
How do you get multiple names?
Yeah, there's
you could if you, let's say, building a project or product on Pulse Chain, and you have also a YouTube channel, you can claim multiple names. Just make sure that you are submitting that multiple times. So each name, because otherwise we will be going through all of them at a later stage and verifying them. And we already have a bunch of name claims that we received, so it will be like quite a little task. So to make it simple on us, just submit a new claim with every name claim that you want to do. Yeah,
perfect. And as far as speculative names, like say I want to like, what if I want RH is the goat dot PLS or PNS? That will come to later, right? That's when we
that one will be fully mintable mintable, available to the public. You can do that. RH is the goat or hex to the moon or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. What that comes later, correct? We're not able to do that right now.
Exactly. And exactly. And just to make sure, right? If you, let's say, let's say Corey wants to claim a domain name, right? So let's say, Crypto Millionaire with Corey, so you can, get Crypto Millionaire with Corey or Corey, any abbreviation around
Corey Geary, right?
But if you're going after, let's say, my name is this, and I want to go after, and I want to claim hex.pls, that's something not possible. Or apple.pls. It needs to coincide with your Twitter identity rather than just like, because we had some claims where people are just like, someone on Twitter, and then they want Apple or,
that's not going to work. Or
Ferrari.pls and stuff like that. So it needs to go hand in hand with your internet ID.
Yeah, you're gonna verify. Like for example, like the guys in our audience, I can't use Red Squirrel in there, like Red Squirrel.pl. And even though he's a big influence on Twitter with his creative mapping that he does with the compounding stuff, like you're gonna verify, right, to make sure that the person claiming is who they represent as far as the metrics that are being met up there. Right?
Exactly. We can read about that, but one of the things that we do is like, one, submit the form, then follow us on Twitter and basically send us. And the reason why you need to follow us is so that when we start with the verification process, that we have an open channel open. If you don't follow us, sometimes we can't necessarily DM you, right?
So you can verify.
Exactly. Okay. And then you essentially submit. Well,
good. This is good.
Okay. DM us with claim submitted, and then from there, once we close to Pulse Chain mainnet, we will essentially reach out to you, go through the verification of basically saying, okay, does your name match what you wanted to? Then we'll basically say, hey, give us a clean new wallet address where we can send the name to. We will also send you some PLS tokens, so you could essentially set up your
million PLS.
Yeah, we'll be sending some PLS tokens. We don't know how much yet, but we'll be sending you PLS tokens so you can, if you have a new wallet and you have a domain name in there, that you have enough PLS tokens to configure it in any way you want it. Yeah.
Cool. That's really cool.
One of the things that I want to kind of like, this is the app, which is live. You can play around with it. This is like a domain name that I just configured. One of the things that many people don't realize is subnames. In other words, subdomain names. So let's say if, Corey, if you want to issue free domain names to your entire group, you can essentially do that, right? So you could essentially create new domain names, issue them, open up your wallet.
Can I create like a bunch of group, like DeFi Crypto Alliance, Dane, DeFi Crypto Alliance, Corey, and all in here, and then issue to our group members, all like as part of being on our group, basically.
All for free. Yep, all for free.
Cool.
Then you go into that particular one. I should have used a different name, but you could essentially, in this case, take that one and then send that one to whoever you want to send it to.
And when you say that you're going to be sending these, are these tokenized? Are they NFTs? Is that
Yeah.
how someone would receive them?
Exactly. So these will be NFTs. So every time you mint or your domain name, you are minting an NFT similar to subnames or subdomains. You will be minting an NFT that you can send around.
For the subdomain, can I
Cool.
change the wallet address on the subdomain to be different than my main?
Yeah. So
You
for
can.
yes, you can configure them as you like by editing this subdomain, and then also something for. So in other words, yes, you can change, this entire profile can be as configured
So cool.
as this one, like in terms of functionality, they're the same.
Yes, makes sense. It makes sense. Okay.
So now for the nerds out here, so let's say this is the top domain, right? So helloworld.pls. And
Okay.
now I can issue subdomains, right? However, me as the top domain owner, I can actually still manage these, right? I can actually change them or reassign them, which kind of goes against trustlessness, right? But so what you could do as
What if you have kids and you want to?
yeah, I mean, which kind of goes against trustlessness. And one thing that we have here is what you can do if you have a top level domain name, like in this case helloworld.pls. You can go here and you can actually burn your permissions, right? So you could essentially ensure that let's say can transfer, can set resolver, or can create subdomains. You can burn your permission so that all of the subnames that you create they become fully trustless in that case.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I like it.
So here are just some example ones that we did with a couple of folks. And yeah, here we go. Going back to. So I know there's a lot to learn and kind of like wrap your head around. We'll be providing more and more education on all of the bells and features. However, for now, a really good starting point is to go to our documentation. And here you can learn how to, register a domain name. This obviously is on testnet v2b. We'll also have it on testnet v3 and then following to mainnet. But then also how to update your profile, how to create subdomains, how to transfer it, how you can one other thing, you could also connect your, let's say if you have plsdomains.com or any .com, including hex, you can essentially get it into our system where it will not be a .pls domain name, but a .com domain name. Does that make sense?
Yes. So it'd be the .com will be used just like the PNS will be used.
Exactly. So in this case, this, for instance, is pulse.domains, and this is like a domain name that is now housed under the PNS system. So
so you can take an existing domain name and make it trustless, if you will.
Exactly. All for
that's
free, by the
cool.
way. So just doing this process is free.
Very cool.
It is.
So talk about I think there's a great question. So is there a clawback function? I imagine that was on the subdomain.
Once you mint a domain name, there's nothing we can do. One of the reasons why we're doing the domain naming claiming process. But yeah, once the domain name is purchased, we can't do anything. We cannot claw it back. None of that.
Okay, cool. What and I imagine all the same like principles of crypto. If your wallet's hacked or something of that regard, you just need to protect this like you would any of the rest of your crypto.
Yes. So you will be minting NFT that will be housed in your wallet, and ideally you want to make sure that your wallet is safe, that you're using privacy measures and how you host, or actually not host, how you save your private seeds, ideally a hardware wallet or a software wallet, all of the security talk that Papa Boner talks about. That please follow that advice, because that NFT will be safe there or will be hosted there in your wallet. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
It is cool. Any dates on when we can mint PNSs for mainnet, when we can go and do the the bidding, if you will. Like, say, if I wanted, like, I don't know, Richard is a goat, right? What we talked about earlier. Do we have a date on something like that?
Yeah, so we'll most likely launch shortly after Pulse Chain launch, maybe
Okay, after making that.
3 to 14 days after, probably closer to 3 to 5
I'm
days.
like Dane. I'll probably go in here and probably mint out like 10 of them. You know what I mean? For speculation.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that the market seems to do a lot with domain names. So we'll be announcing the date. We'll be saying, hey, on this date at this time, this is when it starts. So we want to give everyone a fair chance. So the best way to kind of like follow that is visit follow us on Twitter as well as Telegram. And we'll be announcing, once we're fully live on mainnet, all through Twitter. And then also something that I want to make sure I mention, that when it comes to the cost in particular for domain names, we used a very similar pricing model than ENS. If you look into this, so it's like any 5-character domain name is $5 a year. It's very, very similar to, and I can essentially zoom into that, is $5 a year. If you want 4 characters, it's more expensive. If you want 3 characters, it's much more expensive. Something that we've seen is, if you want 3 or 4 characters, you just want to be cool, or you want a really cool name.
It's the same on web too.
Yeah, it's like you want to flex, cool, that's totally fine. Also, on the speculation standpoint, a lot of people use them for a higher resale value and so on. But again, the pricing model is like, we want to make sure it's accessible for as many people as possible. This means 5+ characters. And then for individuals that want to speculate and want to have a fancy name, that's also possible.
Yeah. The majority of people is 5+ is plenty. That's good enough.
Yes.
Like, that's like, that's why. Yeah. Oh man, this is super exciting.
This is cool,
another,
man. I like it.
I mean, we just got everything being created and built on Pulse Chain that Ethereum has, is what's so freaking exciting. So I give you my hat. I tip my hat to you, my friend, for building this, because this just shows that, we are doing everything that Ethereum can do. And I think we can do it better. And that's what's so effing cool, that you're doing this, man. I'm super excited.
Yep. And thank you so much. I mean, I love building. I've been a Hexagon and Pulseagon since day one. I really want Pulse Chain to be super successful. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing it. I'm certain it will. If we can contribute at least even 0.5% to that, I'm more than happy to do that. In addition to that, while we're waiting for Pulse Chain V3 and mainnet, obviously, we started building out some additional tools, and I will sneak peek that here as well.
Oh yes, please do. Please.
And this is mainly for this is mainly to increase adoption, utility, and then also for some of the degen ratio traders. This is also something for you. So while we're waiting for Pulse Chain V3 testnet, we thought it would be cool to have. Actually, it started off with this. I thought it would be really, really cool to have an ERC20, PRC20 comparison side. So what we're doing here is we're pulling in the Ethereum price from Ethereum, and then the Pulse Chain price from PulseX. And here you could essentially quickly see, what an ERC versus PRC20 is worth in US dollars across both chains. So for all of the ratio trading tarts, which includes me too at that point. So this might be a handy tool to figure out, what you want to ratio trade within the first couple of days, and even beyond. So
will this be up? This will be up like right from the jump, pre-bridge. People could use this as a tool to be able to help with their ratio trading.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Oh,
we try to get it. We try to get it up as soon as Pulse Chain launches. Don't hold us accountable for exactly the second, but shortly after. That's the goal. And here you could essentially see like what is overall underperforming, and then also the total value locked on both chains. So that could be an easy way for you to.
The cool part is the couple shit coins I have my eye on. You have them on the list, so this is cool. I'm like, yeah, he's got the ones that I might be interested in.
Yep. And then, so this is one. Then it kind of like escalated to something else. I'm like, hey, it would be actually cool to have an airdrop checker. In this case, I think I have a couple of dummy addresses in here. So where anyone can type in their ETH address, and now they basically see how much money they have on
I like
Pulse
that.
Chain, right? So they can see, okay, I have a
Oh,
couple
I'm
of
getting
Oh
to
yeah,
it.
yeah. That is cool.
Yep. And the whole point of this is really to help with adoption, right? So it's like the second pushing comes launches, we need to be loud across Twitter and essentially tell people that
You need
there's
to
free
promote
money.
this.
Excuse me?
Yes. We need to promote this. This is like the biggest tool to show everybody here. Look how much free money you have over here. Just plug in your public address and look. This is
Yep.
awesome.
Exactly. And the thing is like, I want to make sure that people know they have free money, and then they can buy and sell more of that token if they choose to. But they can either dump it or buy more ship tokens if they want to. But the goal was an easy way for others to figure out that they have free money on Pulse Chain, and then hence change their MetaMask settings and able to, onboard them into PulseX and
Yep.
and our ecosystem.
Does the buy sell button redirect them back to PulseX?
Exactly. It goes directly, let's say, for
Cool.
wrap W.
And the
Oh,
UI
cool.
here is really clean. I like how it
Yes.
looks. It's
This
nice.
is it.
So in this case, you
It
are
says cool. I like it.
yeah. So you're in the wrap BTC. Yeah. Well, yeah. And then something we're like, okay, since we have those two tools, I guess we'll also have a Pulse Chain token list, and this includes the entire list. PulseX only shows the top 20 or top 50 tokens. This thing shows everything. So this shows all of the tokens that are available on PulseX, if that makes sense. Because
And
many of
it will be a live feed of everything, so you could come and check this across.
exactly.
Wow, man.
So this is just version 1.0,
Sure.
which again happened as like as something that we were waiting for. I mean, like we finished all of this. We're still making tweaks and smaller updates there. But then we thought, it would be cool to quickly spin up this initially for my own sake, and then for the community with this in particular. And yeah, thought it would be a useful tool for all of us.
It is.
I like that. And you have a much better coin market cap for Pulse Chain, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, here it was like, the main goal here is like no censoring. We might include some filters where you can censor yourself, but all of this is on-chain data. It's not like filtered or, hexes up in the top, top 6. It's not on page 2, number 201.
Yes, spot 201.
So it's like we're leaning towards on-chain data and pulling in all of this in. Yeah.
The robustness of Pulse Chain before it's even launched is just remarkable to me. It is so cool to see guys like you building on it along with other projects. It's nuts.
It's crazy. I used to believe like, okay, Pulse Chain could do a great, maybe a 600 or 1000x because we can compete like with like Avalanche, or we can compete with like Phantom. But man, I am like really starting to believe we will compete with ETH, and that we have an opportunity to beat ETH at its own game. I really started to believe that. And I didn't really believe that, a year ago or even 6 months ago. And just because of stuff like this, pulse domains that you're bringing out, and the PNS stuff, and all the other, like if you watched our show last week, the protocol Tetra, and all these, and everything Power City's doing. I mean, there's just so much robustness being built, like, and that's what makes a chain. That really is what makes a chain. It makes an ecosystem. What can we do when we get on this chain? Man, it's just coming together so beautifully. I cannot believe it. And you're doing your part, Pulse Domains. We appreciate you. This is crazy.
Thank you. I mean, that's the goal, and I said that also to many. It's like, I want to ensure that all of our bags, the Pulse Chain and PulseX bags, pump as hard as possible. And
you're doing your part.
and we need the tooling, and it's like with Pulse Domains, the naming side, we're not changing, something that I say all the time. It's like, looking at domain name services, looking across other chains, they have adoption, they have utility, they have usage, and there are a requirement for every thriving chain. And we want to play that role for Pulse Chain to ensure that, and if we can contribute to some pumpage for those tokens, we're happy to do that. That's the main goal. We're heavily invested, all of us, and we want to ensure we can do our part. Yeah.
Love it. This is beautiful. Well, man, I've got plenty to wrap my brain around here. Is there anything that you guys want to touch on before we wrap up the show today?
I mean, I think I'm good. How about you, Pulse Domains?
Yeah.
Shill everything. Twitter, Telegram. I mean, whatever you got, shill it.
Yep. Yeah, just come to pulse.domains. That's basically the best resource to find our Twitter, our Telegram. So follow us on Twitter, join our Telegram for any questions. Check out our docs, which is docs.pulsedomains. This is where you pretty much learn about all of the features, and we're still updating all of that with additional features that we're bringing up. Then also, if you want to play around with this, pulsecoinlist.com. This is something that we have not really released or talked about much. This is kind of like the first time more people see that other than from like closed circles. So this is the first time being on
this
the internet.
website's live. Like anybody could go there right now and check it out.
Yeah, exactly. So this is pulling in obviously V2 data. If you want, follow us on Twitter. We have Pulse Coin List. I think we have like 2 or 3 followers since we haven't really publicized that. So follow us on Twitter there. We'll be updating the same site for V3. And then also for mainnet, similar to pulse.domains, we'll be publishing this on testnet V3, and then also soon on mainnet once it comes out.
So
but yeah, follow us on all socials to get all of the updates. If you have questions, feel free to DM us on Twitter, or in this case, Telegram. Any questions that you have, all of them are welcome, be it from educational questions to like, I don't know, well, actually no speculative questions. I'm just, not a certified financial advisor. So I'm just like a builder here. So yeah.
Certainly. That's great. And once again, guys, we don't do any financial advice on the show. Everything here is for entertainment and education purposes only. So make your own financial decisions on financial decisions. Before we go, give us the Pulse Domains X's from Pulse Chain launch. What do we see in the first cycle here? What do your instincts say
for Pulse Chain?
Yeah, give us the Pulse Chain Pulse X.
Oh man, it's sometimes hard. It's sometimes hard to believe, but I think there are a couple of, and I did it like a year ago. Looked at all of the chains, layer 1 chains, and see how many X's they've done. I think it's between 80 and 60X and so on. I think given the amount of tooling, in other words, projects that we have on Pulse Chain, the amount of people we have, the amount of 2 years of anticipation, I think Pulse Chain will blow out all of those numbers. So I think we'll be much higher access in our first cycle than any of that. And then also, it seems that the timing also really works for us.
Yeah.
So and there's also a documentary coming in, and there's so many things. So any metric, if we compare to all of the L1 metrics, again, 20 to 60X, I think we can go beyond that easily. Don't know exactly how, if it's going to be, 80 or 100 or 200X, but given all of the dynamics, it seems very possible. Very, very possible.
Cool. Excellent. All right. Well, cool, guys. We appreciate your Pulse Domain for being on, and all you guys that are tuning in today. Mike says already bookmarked the site. Absolutely. That's awesome. So appreciate you guys. Make sure to smash the likes. Tune in later this week. We have some more guests coming on that we're really excited about. So we will see you guys later this week.
See you guys.
Thank you so much again for having me. Bye, guys.